Hello and welcome to Inside Sports. I'm Wes Decker, and if you didn't know, I'm a big fan of obscure Guinness World Records. So when a man from India slurped 14 ounces of ketchup through a drinking straw last week in 25.37 seconds, I was as pumped as he was bloated. That's some serious sucking, which creates an interesting dichotomy because rarely does sucking equate to winning. And consequently, rarely do we hail feats of sucking on this show because we're about winners. And the proof lies ahead in both sight and sound. Coming up, postseason basketball results through Tuesday for our county schools. I've got the girls, and Kevin Dunleavy joins me for the boys. And with wrestling's state tournament on deck, Andy Mason's here to discuss our county qualifiers, highlighted by 4 guys who roll into this Friday with the momentum of having captured region titles last Saturday. That's where we start, right after this.
Champions are not merely born, they're forged in the crucible that is flag football. With equal parts turf, pigskin, and heart. That's why Buffalo Wild Wings donates to boys and girls clubs across the country to not only help thousands of kids learn about teamwork on and off the field, but to help them fulfill their destiny, to shred defensive lines, terrorize the secondary, and emerge bonded as true champions.
Labor's Office Furniture now has a large selection of in-stock FlexSteel home furnishings. After 43 years of establishing itself as the place to find top-brand office furniture at warehouse prices, great deals on FlexSteel home furnishings have come home to Labor's. Stop in to see Labor's FlexSteel inventory today.
When you're sick or hurt and can't be seen by your regular doctor, you just want to feel better faster. Make a convenient appointment or simply walk into Meritus Urgent Care, where you can receive attention from our caring professionals, from sprains and strains to sore throats, earaches, and other ailments that are not life-threatening. Meritus Urgent Care has you covered with on-site labs and x-rays and much more. We're conveniently located on Pennsylvania Avenue in Hagerstown at the Sylvania Center. Feel better faster with Meritus Urgent Care.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We continue with wrestling now, and joining me is Herald Mail sports editor Andy Mason. Welcome back to the show, Andy.
Thanks for having me back, Wes.
Well, we're down to the nitty-gritty at this point. The region tournaments are behind us now, and in 2A, 1A West, that meat grinder is complete, and Williamsport gets one champion out of that, and that would be Cody Crawford.
Yeah, they got 5. They took 10 guys to the regions. 5 of them qualified for states. You know, that's very good, especially coming out of 2A, 1A West, which is, in my opinion, and lots of people's opinions, the toughest region in the state of all classifications. They got 5 guys through, and yeah, Cody Crawford was the champion at 132 pounds. It was great to see him win. You know, he's always been a great wrestler. But now these last few weeks, he's gone to the next level. He's finishing on, he's standing on the top of these podiums. 2 weekends ago at the county tournament, he, after being a 3-time runner-up there his senior year, he finally gets the county title. 2A, 1A West, after 2 years of being a runner-up, which is a great accomplishment to get second in 2A, 1A West. This year, he finally wins. Beat Oakdale's Wyatt McCoy 7-3 in the final. Had a very strong third period, got the job done, and now he's ready to states, where he'll try to, at the least, get his first state, get on the state podium for the first time. And
right there on the brink of becoming the winningest wrestler in Williamsport history.
Yeah, he's got 139 career wins, tying Justin Beckley, the state champion from a couple years ago, who also had 139 wins, and I'm very confident he'll become this, Williamsport's all-time winningest wrestler this weekend. Just needs one win to do it.
Yeah, that's an incredible
Yeah,
mark.
And I predict he gets more than one win.
Yeah. Well, and he has been on quite a roll as of late, as you documented there. We had 2 other finalists in region finals, starting with Boonesboro's Tristan Cook.
Yeah, Tristan Cook. He was the top seed at 220 pounds. The kid's really strong, great athlete. He was just a junior. He was a state champ last year in the discus and track. It's something he just picked up. So, it's just a tremendous athlete. Last year, he was 4th place in the state at 182 pounds, and second in the region. This year, top seed in the region. Jumps out to a 4-0 lead in the final against Southern Garrett kid, but just, the kid came back, a couple reversals later, Cook's on his back, pinned. Not the way he wanted it to end, but he's going to states. He has a great chance to, I think, win a state title.
So a big prediction there for Tristan Cook. And as far as Shane Havermael is concerned, he knows what it's like to get all the way to that championship bout.
He could get back to the state final. He's good enough to get back to the state final. But if he gets there, he's probably going to face Catoctin's Zach Bryant, who was he won states last year at 113. And that's the kid he wrestled in the region final. And Havermael got beat 9-1 by Bryant. Bryant's appears to be at just another level right now.
Anytime you're going to the state championships, you know that competition level is going to get higher and higher. So you just have to rise to the occasion. In all, 8 wrestlers making it through in 2A, 1A West to the state stage coming up this Friday and Saturday. Over in 4A, 3A West in the region tournaments there, North Hagerstown with a couple of guys who win region championships at 182. No surprise there with Aaron Brooks.
No surprise whatsoever. I mean, the biggest news that could happen in Maryland wrestling this year would be if Aaron Brooks lost, I think. It'd be one of the all-time great upsets. I mean, the kid's unbelievable. He came back from that. He took those 6 weeks off after Hub Cup, that broken foot, comes back, county's easy time winning that title. No different at the region tournament. Goes 3-0, 2 pins, a tech fall in the final against the number 2 ranked kid in the state, Gabe McAndrew from Bethesda Chevy Chase, number 2 in the state in 4A, 3A.
Yeah.
So, that's the number 2 kid. He beats him 24-9 by tech fall, a kid he probably could have pinned a lot sooner if he wanted to. He's at an entirely different level.
Yeah, he looks like he has a little bit of an edge to him right now. And I wouldn't say a cockiness, but just a confidence that goes beyond.
I mean, he's at an entirely different level. I mean, there's no chance he's not going to win the state title. There's not. I mean, unless he gets injured, nobody has a chance.
Yeah.
And I've never been able to say that about another kid in any other sport.
With 100% confidence.
Yeah, cannot be defeated. He can only defeat himself, and that's like some injury or But there's no kid out there. There's no kid who's going to get lucky and pin him. There's no kid out there who's been training all year round to be in great shape to beat Aaron Brooks because they can't do it. And Aaron Brooks has not had a competitive match since in his Hubs uniform since the state final his sophomore year, which he also won. He's in line to become the first 4-time state champ from Washington County, just the 7th in state history. He's one of the all-time great public school wrestlers in Maryland.
At 113, Tyler Cook wins the region championship at 4A, 3A, and I had a chance to talk to him afterwards, and he talked about just what it was like to be able to pull this off after a little disappointment that he experienced last year.
It's always good to think like I have 2 more years if I don't accomplish something, but why not now? If I'm feeling it, I feel like I'm having a great season, so I'm just going to keep going. As a freshman, I was just disappointed not placing the states, not losing more than 10 matches is one of my goals. This year to lose less than 5, I'm still good, so I don't plan to lose anymore.
Yeah, the funny thing about Tyler to me is he's kind of the quiet assassin. When he goes out there, you think to yourself, I don't know if this kid necessarily has a chance, and he gets in some of the weirdest positions on the mat, and yet somehow he comes out with win after win.
Yeah, his freshman year, I remember him winning the Hub Cup, first freshman champ in North history, and he's had a bunch of big wins since then. Shane Havermael, who we just talked about, nice upset win over him for the county title this year.
And sheer confidence right now out of him. The other region champion over there in 4A, 3A West, Caleb Everhart of South Hagerstown, who is only just a sophomore, but he was a little disappointed last year in what happened too. But when I talked to him afterwards, the first thing he wanted to talk about was the first time that he had met Joe Gross of North Hagerstown and what he learned from that match that helped him win this one.
The first time me and Joe met, it was a dual meet, went into overtime. I know I came out kind of slow, but this time I made sure to come out with my moves, set up my moves. But Joe's a great wrestler, so there's a huge change in years of intensity in the room and all that. Knowing that I took first, I'm going to have a lot more confidence wrestling in my first couple matches at states. And I know there's going to be good competition there, so I just got to give him my best shot.
And Everhart last year, goes to states, gets there as a freshman, tremendous achievement, and then breaks his arm while he's leading a match.
Yeah.
So you talk about a guy with a lot of motivation going back this year. Certainly that would be him. And coming off a region title, I mean, he's got a lot of momentum and a lot of confidence going in.
Oh, yeah. I fully expect him to be on the state podium Saturday night. Yeah, he's a tough kid. I think he's in tremendous shape. Doesn't give up. You know, he gets some early deficits, comes right back. I think against Joe Gross, who he beat in the region final, he was down early, and then he was, you know, same thing happened in their dual meet this year. Gross was up ahead early, and Everhart came back. And what's interesting is the 132 pound weight class in Washington County. I mean, all the top 4 finishers from the county tournament, they're all going to states. You had Cody Crawford, who won, Everhart, who was second. So we had 2 region champs from our region finalists, and then Joe Gross, who was third. You know, he's going to states, and Jeffrey Henline from Boonesboro, who got 4th in the county, he's going to states. So it's an incredibly loaded, deep weight class.
Yeah, altogether, 9 of the 16 wrestlers who are going to states have been there before. 4 of the 16 have placed at states. Only one of them, though, has won a title, although he's won 3 of them in Aaron Brooks. So we'll find out what happens this coming Friday and Saturday at Showplace Arena in Upper Marlboro, and we'll show and tell you next week. Andy, thanks for being here.
Great to be back, Wes.
And I'm back right after this. Boys basketball postseason to talk about with Kevin Dunleavy in just a moment.
At Hamilton Nissan, we know you've got places to go, so let's travel together. The Nissan Rogue, plenty of room for you, and plenty of room for him. With nearly 40 cubic feet of cargo space, everyone will be using the Rogue for everything, all the time. And on occasion, you'll find an evening for yourselves, and the Nissan Rogue will be right there with you. Hamilton Nissan, let's travel together. Come see us on the Dual Highway.
Want the latest new release movies today? With Movies on Demand, you'll get these titles before Netflix and Redbox.
This will be such fun.
Welcome to Jumanji. Watch your step in here.
I can't even with this place.
Fulfill your destiny.
Watch the newest collection of movies on demand before Netflix and Redbox.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We continue with basketball now and boys playoff action from the county. I'm joined by Kevin Dunleavy. Welcome back to the show, Kevin.
Thanks, Wes.
Well, so far, and I have to say up front, unfortunately the schedule doesn't really play to our advantage here on the show, so we'll take you through Monday night. We start last Friday, 3A West Section 2 quarterfinal. A lot of hype around this game with third-seeded North Hagerstown hosting 6th-seeded South Hagerstown. A lot of history being made with these two teams matching up, but after an early 9-9 tie, it was all North Hagerstown.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen North Hagerstown improve throughout the season, and then, you know, their next playoff game, sure enough, they upset Linganore. So it's, you know, they're a team that's really gotten their parts together and figured out what they do best, and incorporated some young players, and they're on a roll now.
Yeah, and the formula is pretty simple. If you can get it done, then everybody would bottle this and they'd make it work. Yeah. But decisive rebounding edges leading to second chance points. And then in addition to that, the fact that they have been able to get a lot of players involved. Yeah. 10 players scored in the win over South Hagerstown, which turned out to be 80-55. And then you reference the semifinal game in the section from Monday night. They go to Linganore against the number 2 seed, win it 64-53, and their rebounding edge was even bigger in that game, 19 versus 18 against South Hagerstown, 15 second chance points, 8 players score, absolutely dominated the second and fourth quarters, which turned out to be the key.
Yeah, Linganore is really patterned. They're a completely different team than North, and but they looked out of sorts because they couldn't deal with North's length and depth, I think. They just got worn down, and, you know, they'd make a little bit of run in the second half, and, you know, but then North would hit a couple of big shots, and then they looked deflated. You know, like it was just too tough for them to sustain it against a team with that kind of depth and a team that attacks the boards like North was doing last night.
Hub's playing really, really well right now, and they'll have to be, as they'll get the number 1 seed, Thomas Johnson, coming up on Wednesday at TJ's Place for the section title. Winner of that one then will play for the region title on Friday and a berth in the state Final Four. North now 7-4 on the road this season, and they won 3 in a row there, so that bodes well for them. Over in 2A West Section 2, semifinal action there on Monday night. Who would have figured that 3 fourth-quarter three-point field goals by Caleb Bowers would come within 1 point of equaling all of the points that Middletown scored in the entire second half against Williamsport in that game, as the top-seeded Wildcats win it going away. Kind of an unexpected final, 55-36.
Yeah, because Middletown had really given them fits this year. I think the combined 3 points was the combined margin of their Williamsport's 2 wins over them this year. So, and they're used to playing tough games, going back years with Middletown. But, this was a great way for Williamsport to start the playoffs, with the no stress kind of win that you were kind of worried about might have to go right down to the wire.
And rebounding was the key in that game. 38-22, Williamsport out-rebounds Middletown on the way to victory. And now we'll host Seneca Valley. Seneca Valley barely got by in their semifinal by 1 point against Walkersville, so it'll be the 2 seed versus the 1 seed on Wednesday in Williamsport, and the winner of that one then goes on to the region final and then a berth in the classification Final Four after that. Over in 1A West on Friday night in Section 1, Hancock bowed out at Fort Hill 91-29, so that ended the Panthers season. Meantime, in Section 2, Boonesboro, looking for that first win of the season, ever elusive, did not get it. They fall on the road at FSK 66-53. Meantime, 4th-seeded Smithsburg outlasting Catoctin in what was a high-spirited game, 60-57. The Leopards had that one in control early. Catoctin rallied back. Things got a little heated. The Leopards get the win, though. But all it did, Kevin, essentially was set them up to be the sacrificial lamb for Clear Spring come Monday night, because the number 1 seeded Blazers, after getting a first-round bye, all over the Leopards in the semifinal. It was a 7-7 tie at one point, but by halftime, it was 38-20.
Yeah, Clear Spring, they know what to expect from a team like Smithsburg. They had beaten them, by I think more than 20 points both meetings. So it's just a really tough matchup for Smithsburg, given their lack of height, and Clear Spring is pretty big on the front line and pretty athletic as well.
And it was a tough combination for Smithsburg to defend because, you talk about the height and the length inside. Yeah. Not only was that working for Clear Spring, but a lot of good shooting from the perimeter, too. And when they've got it all going, it's tough for any team to keep up with them. And the final score, 71-43, and Clear Spring gets a little bit of a favor, perhaps, from FSK, knocking off the team that had beaten them twice during the regular season, the 2 seed Brunswick. So now Clear Spring versus the 3 seed FSK on Wednesday for the section title, and then the region title will be contested on Friday. And Clear Spring looking for the second time in 3 years to get back to the state Final Four in 1A. In the MDCC tournament, as we turn our sights to the private schools, I'll tell you what, we knew all year long that Broadford Christian was the top dog there. There was no question about that. But in that tournament championship game, Kevin, I'm not sure that a team has looked better in a quarter all year. 34 points in the first quarter, allowed just 3. Faith only scored 32 in the entire game. They could have stopped it at the end of the first quarter.
Yeah, they had no letdowns this year. They've got a lot of talent, but they've had more talented teams that didn't win the title. So it was pretty amazing that the chemistry that they got this year was part of what made them so good. It wasn't just the talent. So really great job by Brad Spielman, coaching that team and really getting everybody on the same page, because they didn't have the depth that they've had in the past.
Now, Henson Ujo was the tournament MVP. Turvan Benito, the co-player of the year in the league, and those two guys, a formidable combination there, but you throw in Daniel Durst and some of those other guys, and I'm telling you what, that turned out to be one heck of a team this year, especially in the MDCC where there was no competition whatsoever. 69-32 the final, and now Broadfording on its way to Ohio to play in the National Christian Schools Tournament starting on Thursday. Another no contest in a conference tournament, and I'm not sure we saw this one coming. In the MAC tourney, Kevin, on Sunday, it was all St. James against Flint Hill, two teams that had gone tooth and nail in a couple of games this season, but St. James pulling away in this one, and they really put on a show.
Yeah, that might have been the best performance I've seen since Goretti knocked off DeMatha last year. It was everything coming together at the same time for St. James, playing incredible against a team that was really hot coming in. Flint Hill had won 10 straight MAC games, and that league is loaded this year. They had 6 teams that could have won won the conference this year. They only had one weak team in the entire league. And, they just took them apart. Flint Hill looked demoralized by the end of the game. Looked like they'd given up playing defense because there was no way to stop Amir Harris and Bryce Golden and all their shooters. I mean, they had 6 different guys that hit 3-pointers in that game.
Yeah, 4 players in double figures, but I think it really showed just what an exceptional team the Saints really are, because everybody seemingly at some point in that game had a chance to shine.
Yeah.
And St. James just rolling. Bryce Golden with a double-double. Anthony Garcia with a double-double. Kalen Baker with 4 of those 3-point field goals, 15 points in the game. Amir Harris, a little of everything, 11 points, 13 assists, 8 boards. And how good would they have been? It brings to mind, how good would they have been with a healthy Anthony Torelli?
Yeah, you wonder. And then with Bryce Golden, who missed maybe 6 or 7 games, more than that, I think it was about 8 or 9 games. And you saw his, how important he is. There's no player in the MAC like him, with his ability to play both the perimeter and inside. So, and then nobody like Harris either. I mean, he's on another level as far as his length and quickness, and you put that all together, and he's got a really bright future. I'd love to see him at a big school next year and see what he could do.
I think Bryce would like him to come to Pitt with him. I mean, from what he said after the game, I mean, those two had a pretty good rapport. St. James wins at 75-56. And speaking of Goretti, now on Thursday, they'll open up in the BCL tournament at home in that first game in the quarters against Loyola, hoping to move on from there to Goucher College for the semifinal and final rounds, and invited back to the Alhambra this year. So that's big for them, second year in a row. That's a lot of basketball for you. Kevin, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Wes.
There's more hoops to come. The girls' basketball postseason is ahead. I'm back with that in just a moment.
Antietam Broadband's Flight Gigabit service is ultra high-speed internet delivered by a direct fiber connection. We are one of the few communities in the country to have it. But what does it mean? It means businesses will want to move here, which means more jobs, better jobs. It means access to world-class infrastructure for healthcare, education, and nonprofits. It means enhanced social and economic well-being. That's why it won the 2017 Leading Edge Award from the Chamber of Commerce. Flight Gigabit from Antietam Broadband, changing how people connect.
Welcome back to the show. Last Friday, when the public school girls state basketball tournament began, optimism pulsed through the veins of all of the players involved. The reasons were simple and legitimate. If a player's team had been playing well, enough said. If a player's team had struggled through the regular season, there was new life and new hope, with everyone essentially starting over. While hitting that reset button sounds promising, just like a coach drawing up a game plan for his or her team, its execution can turn into something completely different. And how quickly that played out, with 3 of our 5 county schools who competed in section quarterfinals on Friday or Saturday bowing out. North and South Hagerstown were one and done in 3A West Section 2, while Hancock suffered the same fate in 1A West Section 1. So on Friday in 1A West Section 2, it was up to Smithsburg, whom head coach Chip Baktel had said merely played the regular season as an exhibition to get to the postseason, where the games really count, to get the county into the playoff win column. Opening at home as the 4 seed, while the Leopards may not have been terribly familiar with 5th-seeded Francis Scott Key, they certainly knew their own strengths, and they accentuated them, flexing their 3-point shooting and full-court pressure defensive muscles to generate offense that, bridging the first and second quarters, flipped a deficit of 5-0 into a 21-5 advantage. And Smithsburg cruised from there to a decisive 63-35 victory and a berth opposite top-seeded Boonesboro on Tuesday in the section semifinals. Then on Saturday, the ball was in Williamsport's court, literally in a 2A West Section 2 quarterfinal to keep its season alive and advance past its initial matchup. And the Wildcats rose to the occasion, doing it in typical Wildcat fashion. The 4th seed won all the less glamorous statistical battles, rebounding, forcing turnovers, and making free throws to prevail on the scoreboard by holding 5th-seeded Damascus under that magical number of 41 points that Coach Kevin Murphy knows determines success versus failure for his team in a 46-39 victory that sent Williamsport to undefeated Poolesville on Tuesday to play in a section semifinal. Unfortunately, the number 1 seed would prove to be too tough a task for the Cats. Atypical numbers conspired against Williamsport, out-rebounded by 16, only the 3rd time that happened all season, and outscored 28-0 in the paint, added up to a painful conclusion to an otherwise outstanding season as Williamsport's year ended in a 51-23 setback. Back to 1A West Section 2, where 2nd-seeded Clear Spring opened its 2nd season at home on Tuesday against 3rd-seeded Catoctin. Disappointingly, the Blazers' playoff stay turned out to be a short one thanks to an opponent with which they had had no luck during the regular season. After hanging within 2 points through the early stages of quarter number 2, Clear Spring couldn't find the necessary firepower the rest of the way as Catoctin limited the Blazers to 21 points over the final 24 minutes, and consequently, Clear Spring came up short against the Cougars for the 3rd time in as many attempts this season, falling in the section semi 44-31. That outcome meant that in the bigger picture, flying in the face of what coaches love to proclaim, it had not been tough for a team to beat a team 3 times in a season. In fact, to that point, combining the results of county boys and girls teams in that very scenario, the team seeking to go 3-0 was a perfect 6-0. So we're saying, that couldn't continue, but it had every right to, according to the numbers. Heading into Tuesday's 1A West Section 2 semifinal at Boonesboro, the top-seeded Warriors were 7-1 against the teams in their section and 2-0 against their opponent, the Smithsburg Leopards. One that Williamsport head coach Murphy stated right here on the show last week could be a dangerous one for Coach Connolly and Boonesboro. This is called foreshadowing. Through a tightly contested first half, neither team could create much separation, answering the other's salvo time and time again. But it was a pair of Smithsburg three-pointers near the end of the second quarter that provided the Leopards with a 3-point halftime lead. They would extend to 7 after 3 periods. However, the Warriors didn't go away. Boonesboro pulled within 56-55 with 42 seconds remaining, but Smithsburg didn't fold and scored the game's final 3 points to hold on and advance. The difference in the 59-55 victory was the foul line, where the Leopards made 14 of 16 shots, compared to Boonesboro missing 13 of its 18. So not only does Smithsburg break the streak of teams going 3-0 against an opponent this season, now the Leopards will have the chance to do it again when they visit third-seeded Catoctin for the section title on Thursday. Meantime, in the private school postseason, last Saturday, the Heritage Academy Eagles sought to complete a perfect season in the Mason-Dixon Christian Conference. Heritage had run the table to that point, going 16 for 16 versus conference competition, including quarterfinal and semifinal victories in the MDCC tournament. The Eagles' opponent in the championship game was third-seeded Shalom Christian, an upset winner over Calvary on Friday. Heritage took a 7-6 lead to the second quarter, but the Eagles were clearly not at their best, and Shalom opened period number 2 by going on a 10-2 run and led 19-13 at halftime. In chase mode the rest of the way, the Eagles, who were hampered by ankle injuries to a pair of starters, were forced to work extra hard for everything they got. And in the end, everything they got wasn't enough to overcome what Shalom got, which was a 44-34 win and the MDCC Tourney Championship trophy. With little time to dwell on their loss, the Eagles bounced back with a quarterfinal victory in the Maryland Christian Schools Tournament on Tuesday, and now 22-4 on the season. Heritage dismissed the Frederick Force 63-36, advancing to Thursday's semifinals at New Life in Frederick. And in Cumberland on Thursday, St. James begins play in the 24th annual Bishop Walsh Girls Invitational. Best of luck to all of our county teams as the postseason intensifies. Next week, results from the playoff hardwood and the state wrestling mats. Thanks for watching this time, and I'll see you then on the inside.
Hey, your sisters and your brothers, your haters and your lovers, you gotta get up in the streets.